Hello there. Now, chai and coffee have become pretty intrinsically tied together in the modern cafe landscape. However, I don't think we've ever done a deep dive on chai on this channel, so I'm very excited to do that today. I have a lot of spices in front of me and everything smells so good already. Now, the plan is that we're gonna first talk about and make a traditional masala chai, and then after that, I'm gonna show you how to make two kind of more modern variations of chai that you often see in cafes, but you can make these at home and they're super tasty. So without further ado, let's begin. Now, chai is the Indian word for tea, and masala refers to a variety or blend of spices. So translated, masala chai is spiced tea. We have some spices here. So what we're gonna be using today is gonna be ginger, black peppercorns, cinnamon, cloves, cardamom. We have C2C black tea, a mortar and pestle so we can grind our fresh spices. We have water and we also have milk. Now, one thing I want to highlight before we really dive into this is going to be the tea. So this is a C2C black tea, as I said before. C2C actually stands for cut, tear, curl, which is a processing method, and it yields a tea that might be slightly different to what you're used to seeing. Now, I have two options here, so you can actually see a comparison. Let me just get some of these real fast. Okay, now this right here is gonna be C2C black tea. You can see it's kind of in these small pelletized forms, and I am spilling it all over the counter. Regardless, this right here is a more traditional whole leaf black tea. Now, the reason we're using C2C rather than this kind of more intact leaf black tea is because C2C black tea tends to have a more intense and robust flavor. We really want the black tea to shine through all the other things we're adding here today, and so using something like this whole leaf Assam is gonna have a lot of nuance and delicate flavors in it, but it has the potential to be washed out with everything else. So something like a C2C stands a much better chance at still maintaining its flavor. And oh my gosh, there are so many black tea pellets rolling all over the counter. Regardless, for us to actually be able to use all of our spices, we need to grind them. And I saved us some nasty grinding noises, and I did that already, so let me go grab those. I really like having trays in the studio. Having just a tray of things to wander around is great. Now, before we move any further, I want to give a huge thank you to Donna for sponsoring this video. They are a company I have worked with tons in the past, including before ever being a creator. I worked in cafes that served Donna. They are a tea provider and kind of specialty coffee's other half. They do a really incredible job of sourcing traceable and single origin teas and also spices. And they sent over a ton of their spices so that we can make our masala chai with them. Now, let's talk about our proportions that we need. For you Americans, I have this in teaspoons, should you like, and for everyone else, we'll do this in weight as well. Actually, just kidding. We're gonna put the tray on this side. Now, while we measure out our spices, I'm actually gonna get our water boiling just so we don't have to wait for that later. We're gonna be making an amount of masala chai that's about 2 servings, or one very large serving if you prefer. We'll be using about 250 mils of water, or about 1 cup of water. Just toss that in your saucepan and let that come to a boil. Okay, let's talk about our spices. This is the point, if you are following along, where you should probably get out a pen and paper. I'm going to be tossing some numbers at you here. Okay, first off, we have our ginger. I am using about 1 teaspoon of ginger, which equals to about 3 grams. Next, we have our cinnamon. Again, about a teaspoon, or about 4 grams. These things weigh different amounts, if anyone didn't notice. Next off, I have about a teaspoon of cardamom seeds. Now, these are simply the seeds that exist within those green or black cardamom pods. And that's about 5 grams of cardamom seeds. Cloves, this is about a 1/4 teaspoon of clove. I leave them whole. I think it just extracts a better amount of flavor. I'm not a huge clove person, but if you are a clove person, you can grind them up. They'll extract even more flavor. That's about 1 gram of cloves. Now, as far as our C2C black tea goes, I'm using about 13 grams of black tea. We are gonna be using black pepper here. I'm gonna this is gonna be a more an eyeball situation. I like a peppery chai, but if you don't like a peppery chai, either don't use it or use less. I've added about 0.7 grams, if anyone's curious. Now, another thing we're gonna be using today is gonna be a little bit of cane sugar. This is about 15 grams. If you like your masala chai sweet, go ahead and use that, adjust the taste. If you don't like it sweet, don't add it. Easy peasy. And lastly, I have some whole milk. Now, this is gonna be equal parts water to whole milk. So again, this is 1 cup or about 250 mils of whole milk. I find that whole dairy milk tends to taste the best in this. It is probably the most traditional. However, if you're using an alternative milk, say soy or oat, whatever have you, just make sure you're finding something that is a more like full fat or barista series, something with emulsifiers that has a lot of creaminess, so you get that really unique, like frothy, tactile that masala chai has. I think also coconut milk usually tastes pretty good in chai, but one of the things, again, with coconut milk is it has a really high water content. So especially with something like that, getting like a barista series that's built to be creamier is going to be really important. But those are all the things that we need. This is almost to boil, so let's get all set up. And I'm gonna also get you a different angle so you can see what we're doing a little bit better in the pot. Okay, our water has almost reached a boil here. The first things we're gonna be adding is going to be our spice blend. We're gonna toss in our tea and also our sugar. Hold on the milk for now. And now we're gonna wait a moment as we quite literally wait for a washed pot to boil. We're just hitting a boil now. I'm gonna reduce the heat just very slightly, just to kind of temper that speed of the boil. We're gonna toss in our spices, toss in our black tea, and our sugar. Now we're just gonna give this a stir and let this boil on its own, steep together for about a minute here. Now, in a second, we're gonna add all of our milk and then continue to let this simmer. The milk is, of course, when we add it, gonna bring down this temperature off a boil. So we're gonna then bring it back up to that boil and let it cook together and really like infuse all that delicious flavor for another like 3 to 4 minutes. Once you get all your spices weighed out, like this is a pretty simple process. Really, that is so much of the beauty of it. One of the things I also wanted to mention is that with masala chai mixes, this is very much up to your flavor. A lot of people will add mint to their masala chai. A lot of people will adjust the kind of like heaviness of certain spices. And really, it's a build your own adventure here. We're gonna toss in our milk. Again, you'll see that boil drop down. We're gonna bring it back up. One of the things here is to kind of keep your milk moving. We are using milk on a very high temperature, and so we have to be cautious of scalding. And we're only really gonna let it boil for, again, like 3 to 4 minutes at most. Something you'll see here in a second is that once it reaches that higher temp again, you'll see the milk bubble and kind of froth and build up the sides of the saucepan. That is good. We're gonna let that happen kind of 2 to 3 times by leaving it on the heat to let it bubble up and then taking it off to let it cool back down again. And then after that, we're good to enjoy. So we're gonna let it bubble up once or twice, and I'll see you at the other end of this. Okay, now that our chai is off the heat, all we have to do is strain out our delicious masala chai liquid and then remove that tea and those spices. Just absolutely gorgeous color. Now, I said this was a serving for 2. Perhaps this is just a very large serving for me though. Now, it is toasty and warm, but still, let's enjoy. It is pretty hard to beat that. It is warming and comforting and spiced and delicious and just, it's good vibes. Masala chai specifically is just so stinking wonderful. I love it. I love it so much. I was joking on Threads the other day that masala chai is likely to make me a full tea convert very, very quickly. Having those really high quality fresh spices in there allows for so much like aromatic quality in it as well. Like it's just so good. I'm trying to come up with better adjectives, but it's just lovely. But that being said, we have 2 more kind of more modern variations of masala chai to make. So let's get into that. I have to have a little bit more though. Okay, moving on now. Now, I mentioned earlier that this video was sponsored by Donna Chai, and this might be a company you are pretty familiar with because in most cafes nowadays, what you are getting when you order a chai or a chai latte is going to be made with a chai concentrate. This is taking that same tea, those same spices, all of it, and brewing something that can be split with milk or whatever have you to make a really delicious drink really easily. Now, something really cool that Donna launched recently is actually going to be a quarterly tea club, and this quarter, it's chai. So if you would like to try their concentrates, if you want to try those raw spice ingredients and teas like I was showing earlier today, you can actually sign up for that in the description below. Or if you want to shop their evergreen catalog, because they've still got their concentrates, they've got incredible loose leaf teas, you can actually get 25% off when you go to that link and you use code Morgan25. It's a really incredible offer that they're giving all of you, and I'm super excited about it because this stuff is so tasty, and it's really, really knit into my everyday brewing and recipe development. It's super nice. Moving on, let's make some drinks. All right, let's talk about the dirty chai latte. This is a very, very popular option in cafes. I cannot tell you how many of these I've made in my life, and they're incredibly easy. The things you're gonna need are a double espresso. You will need milk of some type, and you will also need a chai concentrate. This is super easy to mix up. We're gonna use 1 part milk to 1 part chai. And then I suppose we need to steam this up. And I also suppose we need some espresso. All we have to do now, drop in that double shot of espresso, and then pour our milk. I was a little overzealous with this one. I'm just really grateful that spilling coffee doesn't really affect the taste. Because, let's enjoy. This is also very, very good. Okay, but a dirty chai, I feel like is pretty familiar nowadays. However, have you ever had Nitro chai before? If you haven't, let's make some. Now, if you haven't had a nitro drink before, these are pretty common in kind of the cold brew realm, but you can nitrogenate most things. Nitro chai is super delicious. It is served cold and it has this really distinct kind of frothy, foamy texture that is hard to get in like a lower fat content. This is not going to taste or feel like cold foam. It's not going to be that heavy. It's going to be a little bit like drinking a cloud is the best way I can describe it. And you can make nitro drinks really easily if you have something like this, which is going to be called like a whipping siphon, a kitchen siphon. They've got a couple different names, but you can use them with cream chargers like this, or you can use like CO2 chargers for carbonation. For this, once more, we are going to be using our chai concentrate. We're going to be doing it again in that 1-to-1 ratio between your milk of choice and that chai, but I'm going to be sweetening it slightly with maple syrup, just to really add to the cloud quality, I think. So 1 part chai concentrate. We'll just finish off the bottle here. 1 part milk of choice. I'm gonna add about 15 mils of maple syrup, very much to taste. You can also do vanilla, would be super good in this. Lavender, potentially. A lot of people like lavender chais. I'm not huge on that profile, but again, the populace seems to like it. Oh, here's my nitro canister. I was like, I know I brought another one over here. It turns out I preloaded it. And that is why you don't preload your nitro canisters. So simply screw this all together. Our ingredients are already nice and chilled. Activate the canister, which it makes a fun noise. There we go. Give it a good shake. And then we're gonna let it sit here for a second. Now, while it sits there, I'm gonna show off this very fun glass that I got. All right, once that has sat for a second, we're simply gonna decant it into our glass. And already you should be able to see that super fluffy, just, oh, I'm so excited to drink this texture that I was talking about. Fill it to the top. This is kind of a drink immediately scenario. The longer you let this sit, the more that head is going to dissipate. It'll still be super tasty no matter what, but you do lose some of that texture element. So without further ado, I saved possibly the most crushable for last. This is like the most sippable, summery, fun, fluffy drink in existence. And I am just really full of adjectives today. But regardless, with whatever you do with this information, my name is Morgan. You can find me here on YouTube once a week plus shorts, or on Instagram or TikTok almost every single day. Again, a huge thank you to Donna for sponsoring today's video. And again, check out that link in the description or use code Morgan25 for 25% off. This is a lot of fun. I'm gonna go enjoy this. And I'll see you all next time. Cheers, everyone.